Good morning. It's Monday now, and I'm about to leave. And what I'm about to do is go around town to cafes and small gift and souvenir shops and talk to them about possibly selling my postcards and greeting cards. And this is something friends have suggested to me to do for a while now, and it's something I never wanted to do because I'm extremely anxious, scared, and uncomfortable talking to people about my work and selling it, so to say. But I do believe that it's a necessary step for me to take my business to a place where I want it to be. And to be honest with you right now, I don't believe I'm actually going to do it. I'm really, really scared. I have trouble even putting into words what I want to say. So I don't know how this is going to go for me. I'm going to consider it success even if I just go and talk to people. Right now, I don't really have any goal in mind, such as I want to sell this and that or that many things or for that much money. I honestly don't care about any actual sales right now. The most important is that I push through and get over this fear at least a little bit, get out of the comfort zone. It's all about that. So if I manage to do that, even if I do it badly and stumble upon my words and make a fool of myself, this is still going to be success as long as I go out and actually talk to people. I don't believe I'm going to do it. I'm not sure I bring myself to do it, but I have a friend with me to push me and cheer me on. And yeah, I'll talk to you about afterwards how it went. I'm just gonna go now because the more I think of it, the more anxious I get. Wish me luck. Hi again, everyone. It has been exactly a week since last time I spoke to you, and I did plan to talk to you again the same day I did, but I made it back home really late and really tired, and since then it has been a crazy busy week in a good way. And this one promises to be the same. And I'm just trying to quickly film this video in between other things because I want to edit it and post it this week. And the reason why I want to do this is because I believe that I actually have something valuable to share for once. So last Monday, me and a friend of mine went around from shop to shop and spoke to shopkeepers about the cards that I make, particularly the Christmas cards, because that's what's relevant right now. And originally, when I first went out, as I told you, my biggest goal was to actually dare to talk to people, and it was never to really sell. And surprisingly, the first place we went, there was already interest, and we ended up going to not that many shops, maybe 10, I don't know, I didn't really count. And everywhere we went, we got really great feedback. The most negative feedback I got was, these are really nice, but people no longer send postcards, so we are not interested. And that's fair point. I myself rarely send postcards, to be honest with you, though I've always liked the pretty ones. And especially when I was younger, I kind of collected them. And still, when I see nice ones, I still do that today. Other than that, I spoke to people who actually were interested in selling my products, or at least trying it out. And in some of the shops, we stayed for half an hour or maybe longer having conversations and got so much feedback, so many great tips, such great experience. And after this, I just felt so differently about myself and everything. I felt so much more confident and actually felt like there is hope for what I'm doing, which is great because in the past couple of years I didn't really feel that. They were kind of dark years in terms of career. Everything else was great. Anyway, my point here is not to brag about people liking my cards or being interested in my cards, is that the point I want to make is that talking to people is just so important, and it sounds so simple and so silly. And it's not something I discovered last week. It's something that I've known, I've heard people tell me before many times, I've read it. It wasn't a surprise, but sometimes you can't really understand those tips people give you until you actually experience it yourself. And another thing that was pretty important is that this thing that I have been so scared of doing forever seems to actually be the one of the most important things I could have ever done. Of course, it is important that the product you make is actually good, and that's what I've always focused on because that's something that's easy for me. Not that it's necessarily easy to draw or make good things, but what I mean is that this is something that's fun for me and that I enjoy, meaning drawing and making all these products. So it's not so hard for me to sit down and do it. There are times when that's also hard, but the majority of the time it's not really something that I struggle with. What I've always struggled with is the marketing and the selling part, which is kind of the most important thing because no matter how good the product you make is, if no one ever sees it and no one ever buys it, you can't live from that. And it's perfectly fine if that's not your goal and if you only want to have it as a hobby. But I never just wanted to have it as a hobby. It has always been my goal to live from that. Well, it haven't always been my goal because a lot of the time I didn't believe that to be possible, but it has always been something that I really wished could happen. When I graduated my graphic design course, I really wanted to be a logo designer, and I didn't really care whether I will be working at a company or a freelancer. I just wanted to make logos. And in my head, the realistic way to go about it was that I'm going to work at an advertising agency for a couple of years, and then I'm going to go freelance and everything is going to be great. But that's not what happened at all. After I graduated, I started looking for a job, and it was the middle of the financial crisis, and there were no jobs. The one tiny little connection I managed to make during my studying didn't lead anywhere because that company ended up closing down. So I searched for jobs for a year and a half and then just got so sick and depressed about it that I pretty much went back to school and took a marketing course because I didn't want to be unemployed. And after I graduated that, the same thing sort of repeated. I didn't manage to get any jobs. I did have some freelancing success, but at the time I was on unemployment benefits, which meant that I wasn't technically allowed to take freelance. Well, I was, but I had to do it in a very particular way. There was tons of rules, tons of paperwork, and it was really inconvenient and really a hassle to do. And being unemployed for such a long time made me feel like I just wasn't good enough, and that the reason why I wasn't getting a job was because I didn't have the skills. Maybe that's true, but I don't think it's the entire true in any case. The reality as I know it to be is that this is a profession that currently has become very trendy. There is tons of people calling themselves graphic designers or whatever kind of creatives. The competition is huge. I live in a country that's not my own, and even though I speak the language, I'm not as fluent as I am in English, and I'm not as confident as I am in English, and I don't have a proper network because in the past 10 years I've been moving to new cities pretty much every 2 years, and every network I kind of managed to create, I would quickly lose because people move away or I moved away. And most of the people in my network were other internationals who were struggling with the same things that I was. I've heard many stories of how, as soon as the hiring manager or whatever that person is called would look at a CV and see a name that they can't pronounce or it's obviously foreign, they would toss it to the trash pile. And I don't think that's the case everywhere because I still got some interviews. So I don't believe everyone works that way, but a good amount of people do. I'm not trying to say that all these people were racist or prejudiced or whatever, but it is a very known fact that people always gravitate towards other people who are in some way similar to themselves. I do it. Most of my friends are people who live abroad. I've found that the people that I often connect the most with are other Eastern Europeans because we have a lot in common. I can't really fault people for that. I've also met people who didn't speak English well enough and it was hard to connect to them. And that's probably the truth for me in Danish. People felt like they will have a much better working experience with someone who was a lot more like them. So I'm not really trying to complain about some kind of discrimination, but I think it's also important to recognize the obstacles that exist if you're to overcome them. And so during this long period of unemployment, I went to many job searching courses and other kind of courses and all kinds of things. And the advice that I got the most often, particularly from Danes, was call people, go talk to people, go to networking events, and just connect to people. And that's something I always avoided because it wasn't something I was comfortable with. I did try it a little bit here and there, and it was causing me such a huge physical and mental reaction that I just preferred to avoid it. And I always felt very guilty because I knew that I'm not doing my best to get where I wanted to be. And I didn't feel like I was capable of actually doing the thing that I knew I should have been doing. So, back to last week, when I actually went and did this thing and had a really good experience. It's not like it wasn't scary at all. Having my friend there was a huge help. I still don't know if I would have done it without her. I still don't know if I will be able to do it in the future without her, but I want to believe that I would. So what I'm trying to say is that there probably is something that you know you should do, but you're really, really scared of doing it. I don't know what it is. You know that. And I know it's easy to say, just do it. And I don't want to say that, although that's pretty much it. But I think that if you can maybe find a person who can help you do that thing, try and do that. When it comes to my work, I've never been very confident. What I have found about confidence for myself is that you can't be confident when you don't trust that you can do the thing. And you cannot trust yourself to do the thing if you've never done the thing. So the only way to gain confidence is to do the thing. And when you do the thing often enough and successful enough, not that you can't do it wrong, but if you do it wrong and you learn from it and you keep doing it, you'll arrive at a place where you'll be confident doing the thing. But the problem is that it's a bit of a cycle. You don't want to do it because you're afraid of doing it. And because you don't do it, you will never not be afraid of doing it. So far what has helped me was finding someone who, even though I don't believe I can do the thing, they believe that I can do the thing, and they have helped me to prove to myself that I can do the thing. Which once again goes back to the point of talking to people and connecting with people, which actually brings me to another little point of how to do the whole connecting to people thing is. One way, of course, is to do it online, but I find more and more how important it is to have those connections locally. And for me, I've always felt like I have this extra challenge of not being local and lacking this sort of network from high school and so on way back. Like, for example, I think my oldest friendships are from 2-3 years ago because People come and go all the time. And of course, a lot of people will say just go back to your country, but at this point, I have lost those connections back in my country. So at this point, wherever I go, I'm starting from scratch. I am foreigner everywhere and I feel at home everywhere. So, but what I was going to say is about how you can meet people in real life. Something that has helped me a lot was this website called Meetup. I moved to Copenhagen in 2015 and didn't know anyone. And I didn't move here to study or to work or anything like that, because every other time I moved to a new place, I was going to study or do internship or whatever, which already put me in an environment where I could meet people and connect with people. But in this case, I came alone, I didn't know anyone, and I didn't even know where to start. So I did a couple of things, but one thing was Meetup, and basically pretty much everyone I know in Copenhagen right now, I met through this website or through someone I met on this website. And at first I was just going to events, and later on I became an event organizer. And what was great about that is that when you're scared of networking events because you have to go and talk to people, the way to turn that around, at least for me, was become the organizer. Because if you go to an event as a visitor of the event, it's your responsibility to go around and talk to people. But when you are the organizer, people come and talk to you because you are the main person. So sometimes there are those little ways of cheating the system. When I sat down to record this, I had no clear plan. I kind of have a general idea that I want to communicate, but I had not really figured out what exactly I'm going to say and what I wanted to say, which is why this is all over the place and so confusing, and I have no idea if I made any sense at all. I probably should think of a more structured way to communicate this message, because I think it's important and I think it can be really valuable. And the message is go and talk to people. I know what it is to be introvert. I know what it is to have lots of anxieties. So I know that it's not easy, and it's not like I've made it and it's all going to be rainbows and unicorns from now on. I'm sure it won't be. And once you conquer one fear, I don't think I've conquered it yet, but I'm well on my way, I hope. There will be plenty more others to conquer. So what I want to tell people and myself is that this one thing that you're really, really scared of and you always avoid, and that maybe also other people have told you that this is the thing you should do, and you know it's the thing you should do, but you keep not doing it because of how scary it is. Once you do that thing, something really magical will happen. I can't describe how amazing last week felt. The days before, I was so anxious. Whenever I was thinking about going out and talking to people, my hands will start shaking. I'll get nauseous. My stomach will hurt. Like I'll get dizzy. Like my heart will go crazy. It's insane. I actually did record a clip where I was in that state, but I never posted it anywhere. It was going to be part of my previous video, but I decided to scrap it because it was just such a mess. And after that, after I did the thing, I just felt so powerful in a way. Like I can go out and do anything. And you might think that, well, it felt this way because it was kind of a success. And that's probably true. I don't know how I would have felt if it was a totally horrible experience. But I want to think that it will never be that horrible of an experience. After all, I think most people will try to be nice. I mean, I don't know, if my product was really, really bad and everyone hated it, I still think that they would probably not have told me that straight. And I really don't have an advice if that's the case. Because in the past, when I tried to do something like that and it wasn't a great experience, it just made me more afraid. There were a couple of times that happened. So maybe I just wasn't ready at the time. I don't really know. So I can not really promise that it's going to be that amazing. But the thing is, it's not so much about the outcome you get. As I said, my goal wasn't to sell stuff, it was to talk to people, and I managed to do that. So I guess be careful about the kind of goal you're setting yourself. If the goal is just to do the thing that you're scared of doing and you do that thing, it's already a success. So my first message would be do the thing that you're the most scared of, or find the person that is willing to help you to do that thing. And number two will be to connect and talk to people. If it's less scary to do it online, you can do it online. But people have different perspectives. They will tell you things you don't know. They will give you ideas you never thought of. They will give you advice that maybe you didn't hear before. And maybe not all of this advice will be good. Maybe not all of it will be valuable. Maybe not all of it will apply to you. But it's better to have it than not to have it. Because once you have it, you can think about it and make up your mind whether it's worth it for you or not. So my biggest failure last week was that I didn't put a clear goal and I didn't have an actual sales plan in case anyone was interested, and I had to kind of improvise on the spot a little bit. And I will make sure I have that in the future, but I don't really feel too bad about it because I can always do that now, and I will. And in a way, I wouldn't really know how to do it unless I talk to people, because I got advice on that as well. And anyway, I feel like I'm starting to get stale, and I hope this made some sort of sense. I really hope. And if not, I guess I'm gonna give it another try. But I really hope that you got something out of it. Thanks for listening, and let me know what is the thing that you're most scared of doing. And I will see you next time. Have fun.